Alright everyone, so now that we've got through those first two poems, know they were a little heavy, so we're going to take a break real quick. Everyone just close your eyes.
Close your eyes.
Alright, just close them and then open them back up. That's a blink.
That's a blink.
Okay, good stuff. Good start. So now for my first Owen poem. It's called Cramped in That Funneled Hole. And as we talked about, a little bit of background with Owen, he was a World War I veteran. He fought in World War I, and after the war was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, or shell shock.
Shell shock.
And what that does is it basically, makes the war something that you can never forget. You'll have dreams about it. It'll come up, certain things can trigger, reactions that, make you feel like you're in a war situation. And it definitely shows up in his poetry. So before we get into the line by line, the basic overall consensus of this poem is that Owen is talking about a group of soldiers that's in a trench in the middle of a battlefield, and basically they feel as though there's no escape, and around them are just bodies of other fallen soldiers that have already succumbed to death. And so now we'll kind of get into the line by line and how they experience this. Starts off cramped in that funneled hole. In that first line, they watch the dawn and open a jagged rim around them. So the funneled hole in a wartime would have to be a trench, because that's really the only hole that a group of men would be in the middle of a battle. And then open a jagged rim around them. It kind of symbolizes the fact that the trench has been beaten up by the war. The fighting that's gone on, the bombshells, the gunfire, everything it's a jagged rim.
I think they watch the dawn as a pretty key little part in this poem, because I feel like dawn's supposed to symbolize something new, something not happy, but like a new beginning to a day. And every time that they're cramped in this funnel hole, it's just like a new beginning to hell for them, and it's kind of like it's like an eternity that they're stuck there, because every dawn means every new day that they're stuck in this hole. So.
Awesome. Yeah. It goes on to say that of death's jaws, which had all but swallowed them. So being in this trench, they felt like they're already in the grips of death. In death's jaws, for example. And the only thing left was for death to swallow them whole, because there was really no way out, they felt like. And that kind of works with the next line. It says, stuck in the bottom of his throat like phlegm. And we've all had that happen, and it's gross, for starters. But also, the only way to really get rid of phlegm is, to spit it out. So they felt as though the only way that they would ever be able to get out of the clutches of death was to be chewed up and spit out by death. Then transitions into the second stanza, where they were in only one of many mouths of hell. So it's basically talking about the fact that the trenches extended on for a long time, and there were other trenches in the area, and this wasn't just the only one. So there was really no escape. There was no way that they could get out, as it says in the third line of stanza 2, as teeth of traps. So they've got the gunfire overhead, and that's really encompassing or encasing all the soldiers into this trench, and there's no way out besides death. Then, as we get towards the end of the poem, it becomes a little bit more graphic, and it starts to describe the fact that soldiers are just littered across the ground. Their dead bodies are sitting there. They've already succumbed to death, and they've already been fallen victim to its grips. And it's starting to, the odors are starting to get to the men, and they're starting to realize just how real all this death is, and how quickly it can all change.
And just looking at this poem, between the line that says they were in one of many mouths of hell, and between the teeth traps, there's a line that says, not seen of seers and visions, only felt. And I feel like seers historically are prophets or like oracles that tell you your fate. And if they're not seen of seers, meaning they're not seen in visions, meaning their fate is kind of absolute at this point. This is their hell, and they can only feel it through the pain that they feel from the other people around them. So I think
that's really good.
That could be something.
Good job. Then I guess one more thing, that the last line, it says mixed with the sour, sharp odor of the shell, which is also alliteration, which is why it's hard to say. But no, so that's really talking about it has the smell of the dead bodies under the mud where they long ago fell, mixed with the smell of gunfire and gunpowder and just a complete, all-encompassing, total war situation where there's really no escape. And to think that Owen was able to escape and was able to live his life on after this just shows that even though he survived the war, he still has this post-traumatic stress disorder. So he doesn't have that escape. He'll never be able to return out of the grips of death.
Definitely.
So I think that's kind of what he's alluding to, is his life past the war doesn't have an escape, just like these men in a trench don't have an escape from the actual war.
Yeah, I think the mix with the sour, sharp odor could mean he has these visions mixed with, like you said, his life after this war. It's like an odor that follows him around as a sharp, meaning it's always there, and he always feels it. He always feels their presence. So definitely, I totally agree.
Awesome. Well, thank